Salutations, Utopians. Hope all is well in your world. Post holiday celebration. I hope everyone's been able to recharge however way they did so. Speaking of post celebration, obviously it must have not been a very happy one today for Pat Riley this morning to wake up, legendary mind Pat Riley, to wake up this morning and say, let me go ahead and let everyone know the trade rumors are becoming a distraction, and we want to end that right now by making it clear we're not trading him. So that's partial, but I mean, then again, we hear DeMar DeRozan heard the same thing and got traded. Blake Griffin, same thing and got traded. So there's only so much you can put into that, so much stock you can put into that comment, right? But with that being said, it's a fascinating dilemma. Jimmy is due for 2 years, $113 million after this season. Not this season. He's 35 years of age. He wants a more solidified future, and the problem is Spoelstra's getting 8 years, 125. So I know there's a difference. There's a distinction between 8 years and 125 and 2 years, 113. But just from an optic standpoint, there's just no way, and you're looking at Jimmy and you're seeing that he feels kind of what we see a lot of vets in the league who've had amazing runs, especially and not even of the magnitude of his, because I mean, he went for 2 out of 3 years. He took Miami with a bunch of second tier players and laid it all on the line. And you see Paul George, Klay Thompson, they all be getting this undervalued, underappreciated vibration from their franchises, and so they got the chip on their shoulder and they leave. Because guys like Gilbert Arenas, look at it, you see guys like Gilbert Arenas who got an extra 8-figure check from Washington tell stories like, I got them out of the Jordan era and I deserve to get more money. And then you got a guy like Jimmy's like, I walked you out of the Heatles era, got you 2 out of 3 years to the finals with mostly cast off second round picks, which is truly incredible. Because when you think about it, maybe today second round picks are just as valuable as first, but back then that was unheard of. And this is right up his alley. Did the same thing with Minnesota, taking second unit guys, beating the first unit, which is why you see Karl Towns in New York now. Chicago, he pushed Derrick Rose in the front office in Tibbs, which is why Tibbs, when he went to Minnesota, was like, hey, give me that guy. And then you got same kind of situation, in Philadelphia, where it all boiled full steam ahead. And you heard Joel Embiid said, man, I don't know why we let that guy go. Let him walk. And so when you're watching this unravel right now, it's kind of a little bit sus, because, you're like, some people are looking at Spo and it's like, bro, we don't even know if you really like that. I just think Riley is just happy to have a guy he can trust in his right hand, because that's more priceless than anything. And he's got that old school mentality. And when you see what Spoelstra's story is, a true American success story, video equipment manager, going on to becoming a champion, NBA champion head coach with a lot of wins, whole lot of wins, all-time ranking type situation. It makes it where, you want to rock with your guy, but remember, D Wade left for a year and a half after LeBron vacated in 2014, and this so-called Heat culture that they speak of was basically a mediocre squad. Don't get me wrong. The Heat culture seems very stern, but they retired Chris Bosh, who was not a lifer with the Heat. They retired Michael Jordan, who never played for the franchise. So this is an organization that cares about their players. But the Heat culture thing can kind of get carried away a little bit. Sometimes I can't help but wonder how much did their attitude play in part with Dame not ending up in Miami. And so when I watch the situation unfold, it's truly unfortunate, because it is getting to a place where you're like, all right, it's getting messy. It's getting personal. And Jimmy being told, hey, keep your mouth shut if you're not playing. Again, when you pair it with the LeBron cookies playing thing, when you pair it with Dwayne Wade, who felt so sour towards the organization, he ended up, even after they amended all their issues, still took his money and went on and bought a stake with the Utah Jazz. All the money he made with Miami, obviously he had endorsements in other areas, but went on to Miami, took his money from that he made with Miami, and bought a stake with the Utah Jazz. It's telling. You know, he did bring them Jimmy Butler, and now Jimmy, to see this, because of the Marquette ties, even though they didn't have really good close connection at Marquette until years later when he got in the league, it's still like, hey, come to Miami, I can vouch for it, blah blah blah. Don't worry about what that little rift we had. It looks crazy. You know what I mean? It looks crazy to see this unfolding this way. Let me be very clear. I side with Miami. There's just no way I'm giving a guy 4 years at 35, who will be probably 36, 37 at that time. I'm not giving him that much over 200 M's. It's not going to happen no matter how grateful you are. But, you know, with the Sham situation, it's crazy because you have no choice but to address the elephant in the room. Sham's alleging that he spoke to Jimmy's agent. And so here's where I think the conflict begins, because one thing I came to really realize over the summer was that a lot of these old school agents, and on some of these, there's a passing, and I'm not sure if his agent is one of the old school ones, but there's a lot of agents getting faded out, and this could be the last push, right? So I don't know if Shams is working with Jimmy's agent to pump the headlines the way Woj kind of did with Dan Hurley to help up the ante with Connecticut, because everyone knows the Lakers would never pay a head coach the kind of figures that, you know, that was, being spoken on, for what he needed. But ultimately, somewhere down the line, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, might be some favors. I'm at St. Bonnevie now. We see in hindsight, maybe they send a recruit. Who knows? That they don't want to use. But the situation is coming full steam, and the Heat are concerning because this young generation don't operate on that old school stuff. And so when you say Heat culture and all that other stuff, yeah, that might be true, but you still need players. And what Jimmy's saying is like, there's no way I'm taking I would think is like, regardless of the year breakdown, I'm not taking less than what the coach gets. I don't care if it's in a new, in that type of thing. That just doesn't look right, and it sends the wrong message. The franchise, it does belong to Tyler Hero and Bam, Tyler, who just hit a game winner tonight. Bam is working on a streak right now where he's going to become the franchise all-time leading double-double leader, currently held by Ronnie Cycli, legend. So, it's just crazy because, the heat that Shams is taking because of this report. And I don't know if it's like, hey, ESPN said, hey, we need to get you more in the headlines, or he really just, and this is why a lot of people who, like myself, who cover the sport, feel like they don't need to have credentials, because common sense will tell you, if you look, like, all signs point, you don't necessarily need an insider or anything to tell you that all roads are pointing to him leaving. And it's just another pit stop. Philly, Minnesota, Chicago. It's not like he's been a lifer. He just had the most shine, the highest level he reached was during his time with Miami. And so a lot of emotions are tied to this, but ultimately, business is business. And it's just how it's being presented and how the plane is landing where it looks crazy. And so, do the Miami Heat want anything really in all actuality? Is the cap worth more? Again, who knows? Because the hit they've been taking the last couple years, and I'm going to tell you, Spo has looked really bad this year. On some of these, inbound calls, plays that are being ran, rotations, Kyle Ware not being put out there quick enough. Moving Bam to his not natural forward spot. It's just a lot of little things, like, Terry Rozier hasn't been the acquisition that you thought he was going to be. Perhaps they should get into a sweepstake with another guy who's disgruntled and facing the reality because of this, in his case, the CBA, but I understand his frustration. De'Aaron Fox got a 4-year, $163 million on the table, which is exactly what he made 4 years ago and what he signed. Now, from the Kings' perspective, they did bring in DeRozan. They are doing the best they can. They got Keegan Murray in there since he's been drafted. They have done their due diligence to try to make this as seamless a process as possible. But do the Kings say, hey, you know what, DeRozan, Butler, their timelines match. Maybe we should just go ahead and go all in, because now Devin Carter, their top 10 pick at point guard, is about to be medically cleared in January to return. He sports a similar game. Do we have a Halliburton Fox dynamic going on here where now he's the odd man out? You can get assets. You don't have to waste picks on an extension on a guy who you're not sure if he can win a championship. And Fox is of the mindset, well, I got to see what you're going to do if you're just going to pay me the same amount of money. Well, Fox and Bam pairing from the Kentucky days, they've always wanted a point guard in Miami. Hero, Fox, Bam, that seems more appealing. That seems more of a big three. Do you want to go that route? Um, Terry Rozier does remind me a lot of former Sacramento Kings live wire six-man Bobby Jackson. So there's some things to think about. But what all this is about, I feel like, is ultimately Miami make a decision so we can move him at the trade deadline. And now they've pretty much stepped on it, at least for the time being, because maybe the holidays was terrible. Hey, we're not trading him. And it's okay, if that's what you want to do. But it's getting more sour by the day, and it's you're going to have no choice but to move him by the trade down. And it's getting even worse if you do trade him now, because not only does Shams look even more right, whether it was true he did speak to his agent or not, but then also you telling the media that, hey, we're not trading him, and now you just put yourself even in a more behind the eight ball situation. It's crazy in Miami right now for a franchise that has been known to be the diamond standard, despite the peaks and valleys of the last decade or so. But it's just unfortunate it's heading in that Dwayne Wade area where somewhere down the line, once again, Riley's going to be maybe I wish I handled it differently. But just when you're an old school general, this is how things sometimes play out, unfortunately. I hope I was okay today, you guys. Matter of fact, hope I was great. I'll try to do better next time, be more informative. Global, out.